Books and one-click digital present Dimestore by Lee Smith. Narrated by Linda Stevens.
Preface. Raised to Leave. Some thoughts on culture. I was born in a rugged ring of mountains in southwest Virginia. Mountains so high, so straight up and down, that the sun didn't even hit our yard until about 11 o'clock. My Uncle Bob Venable, they lived across the road, used to predict the weather by sticking his head out the window and hollering back inside, "Sun on the mountaintop, girls," to my cousins. The only flat land in the county lay in a narrow band along the river where we lived, about a mile from town. Though we all ate out of the garden, real farming was impossible in that hard rock ground. The only thing it produced was coal. We never thought of our jagged mountains as scenic either, though we all played up in them every day after school. We never saw a tourist, and nobody we knew hiked for fun. I will never forget the first time I ever saw a jogger. My mother and I were sitting on the front porch stringing beans and watching the cars go up and down Route 460 in front of our house, when suddenly one of those vistas we'd been hearing about, a long-haired boy with great legs, came running right up the road. We both stood up and watched him run out of sight. "Well, for heaven's sakes," my mother said, "where do you reckon he's going, running like that?" He was going back to where he came from, eventually. But most of us weren't going anyplace. We were closed in entirely, cut off from the outside world by our ring of mountains. Many of the children I went to school with had never been out of Buchanan County. People still described my own mother as not from around here, though she had spent most of her life teaching their children and trying to civilize you and your daddy, as she always joked. But it was a challenge. So I was being raised to leave. I was not to use double negatives. I was not to say, "me and Martha." I was not to trade my pimento cheese sandwiches at school for the lunch I really wanted, cornbread and buttermilk in a mason jar brought by the kids from the hollers. Me and Martha were not to play in the Black River behind our house, dirty with coal that would stain my shorts. I was to take piano lessons from the terrifying Mrs. Ruth Boyd, even though I had no aptitude for it. I was to play Claire de Lune at my piano recital, wearing an itchy pink net evening dress. I was not to like the mountain music that surrounded us on every side, from the men playing banjo and mandolin on the sidewalk outside my daddy's dime store on Saturdays, to Martha's father playing his guitar down on the riverbank after dinner, to Kitty Wells singing "It Wasn't God Who Made Honky-Tonk Angels" on our brand-new radio station, WNRG. But here, my mother ran into serious trouble, for I loved this music. I had been born again to Angel Band, sung high and sweet at a tent revival that I had to sneak out to go to. And I had a dobro-playing boyfriend with Nashville aspirations. Even my mother enjoyed going to the drive-in theater on Saturday evenings in the summer to hear two brothers from over in Dickinson County, Ralph and Carter Stanley, play and sing their bluegrass music on top of the concrete block concession stand. "I will never marry. I'll take me no wife. I intend to live single all of my life," Ralph wailed mournfully, followed by their fast instrumental version of "Shout Little Lulie." Old people were clogging on the patch of concrete in front of the window where you bought your Cokes and popcorn. Little kids were swinging on the iron pipe swing set. Whole families ate fried chicken and deviled eggs they'd brought from home, sitting on quilts on the grass. My boyfriend reached over and squeezed my sweaty hand. The Stanley brothers' nasal voices rose higher than the gathering mist, higher than the lightning bugs that rose from the trees along the river as night came on. When it got full dark, the Stanley brothers climbed down off the concession stand, and we all got into our cars, and the movie came on. I loved that music, just as I loved my grandmother's corn pudding and those scary old stories my Uncle Vern told. But this hillbilly music didn't have anything to do with culture, as I was constantly being reminded. No, culture was someplace else. And when the time came, I would be sent off to get some. Culture lived in big cities like Richmond and Washington and Boston and New York, especially in New York, especially in places like Carnegie Hall. 40 years later, I stood on my $100 balcony seat in Carnegie Hall and screamed as 74-year-old Dr. Ralph Stanley and the rest of the traditional musicians and singers from the phenomenally successful "O Brother, Where Art Thou" soundtrack played to a sold-out house. Elvis Costello was the MC. Joel and Ethan Coen, the filmmakers who made the "O Brother" movie, were in the audience, along with T-Bone Burnett, its musical director. The Coen brothers had written this note about the music in the program aimed at their New York audience. These songs were, for the most part, created by people whose lives were hard and horizons narrow. Their lives were not like ours. All that urges their music on us is its humanity. And yet, this soundtrack went platinum without receiving any airplay. Pop stations considered it too country, and country stations considered it too country. On stage at Carnegie Hall, the Fairfield Four sang their stark treatment of Poe Lazarus. Dan Tyminski tore it up in "I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow." The Cox family, fresh from Louisiana, brought down the house with "Will There Be Any Stars in My Crown?" Reigning bluegrass princess Alison Krauss fiddled up a storm.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.